this is Dr. Matthew Fink, Dr. Brad Maurer,
Hello.
and Patricia, as Dr. Josh calls her, but really she likes to go by Patty.
Yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome. And we're actually doing it's our first time doing a YouTube podcast and just vocal podcast, radio podcast. What is that called? Podcast.
Yeah.
But
But first time synchronous. Yeah, doing both the podcast and being on YouTube as well.
yeah, so we're gonna see how it goes. I'm sure it's gonna be great.
Probably.
So yeah, probably right.
Yeah.
Probably be great. It'll be great. It'll be fine. But we, in full disclosure, we provided Pat with questions that she could have. It was just a couple hours ago, so like we didn't give her too much time to really think about them. But we're going to be asking. It's going to be like a Q&A.
Yeah, it's part of our series called Bone Stories.
Yeah, Bone
that we've done
Stories.
in the past.
Which we can't claim. We can't claim no.
Might be
intellectual
copyrighted. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Or, yes.
Okay.
It gets
So
more viewers. So.
yeah, it gets more viewers. You gotta leave it out there. You know, mysterious.
Yeah. Who knows?
The mysterious. Okay. So, let's start with. How did you end up here? Where did you come from?
Well, I was starting to take better care of myself and was going to a personal trainer
Mm-hmm.
and working out with her and started to get a few aches and pains from just maybe working too hard or, exerting myself too hard. Anyway, I was getting bothered with my hip and my back, and I said, gee, I can't stretch this out anymore. What do you think? And she suggested, she was a personal trainer, and she went to you guys for
Oh,
all the
great.
things that she had. And I said, oh, okay, chiropractors, no, I don't know. I'm a little scared of them. And
Which makes sense.
and she said, well, my father is a physical therapist, and he goes to them. So I was like, okay, that kind of seals the deal, physical
Right,
therapist
yeah.
is a little, so I gave it a try, and when I came in here, I remember the first thing I said was, please do not paralyze me. I was really worried about that.
It's good you said that, because if not, who knows?
Yeah.
You hear
Yeah,
stories.
yeah.
You just hear stories.
Yeah.
So that's how I got here.
So, if you can remember back to that first visit, what did you think that first time you came into the office? I don't know how many years, I can't know.
11.
11 years ago?
Mhm.
So, if you can kind of recall, what were your first impressions of that first visit? There's a few things you can think of that you're like, oh my gosh, this is...
Oh, well, it was Dr. Josh, and, asked me, kind of gave me a thorough questionnaire that I filled out, and I felt real comfortable. He kind of made me feel comfortable from the start that, hey, we can figure this out, you're going to be fine. And that, a lot of times that's all you want to hear,
Right.
really.
Yep.
So,
Good.
yeah, so then they took x-rays and figured it out and started treatment right away.
Yeah, here we are.
Mhm. Here we are.
And you had a couple, not incidents, but you had stuff happen to you along the way, right?
Yes, well,
Yeah.
silly things that maybe I tried a cartwheel and okay, now this hurts, or, things that come up in life generally, and you guys always took care of everything, even the smallest things. So I always feel like I can ask you to take care of anything, just about.
One of the things that isn't on the questions that we provided to you, but kind of because I've been almost the primary doctor for you
Yes.
most of the time, the amount of wherewithal, the strength that you've developed over these past 11 years, not just spinally, but in yourself. You being able to say, oh, well, this is what I want. How am I going to do this? And if this isn't the answer that I'm expecting, I'm going to pursue it until I get the answer that I want. Do you remember when you first came in and you're like, you know, I'm just gonna do what they say? Not here at this office, but other doctors. And I go, well, they want me to do this and they want me to do that. And I'm like, I just don't know I'm comfortable doing it. And we had a conversation about being an advocate for yourself.
Yes.
And asking questions, and don't be like, oh, well, they said this is what I have to do, I have to do it. Like the last 11 years, it is great to see someone be so empowered.
Oh, I feel like I am. You guys have done so much for me. You know, you go into a regular physician's office and you get so many minutes. And I always come in with a list of questions, always, to everybody. And I maybe get 2 things done and they're out the door and I'm walking in my car going, oh gee, I don't know. I'm a rule follower, but a lot of times you question things.
Right.
And so I could always bounce things off Dr. Matt. Of course, I would look at the internet at home and then I would come in and say, well, what do you think about this too? And, but I never left here without something I could do for whatever happened at the moment. And he would adjust, and now you can do this to enhance what I just did.
Right. And at this point, you've probably received like all the different therapies, adjustments,
Oh,
laser.
yes. Shout out to Dr. Drum with the
Yeah.
with the laser and the
Acupuncture.
acupuncture
Acupuncture as well,
and the
that's
other electronic
Oh yeah, the
stem.
Stem.
yes.
The
Yeah,
stem.
the acupuncture with the stem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And so she was always great too.
Muscle
She really,
therapies.
I always felt like she really cared.
What would you say is your favorite? Is it the adjustment? Is it muscle therapies? Is it
I guess
traction?
I would say the adjustment, just because I know what it's doing. I mean, I've learned so much about the spine, how it can, I'm amazed, everything stems from the spine. If I had a friend that I've sent in here, who
Mhm.
said my toe hurt. Well, I think, don't get me wrong, but I think if they adjust your spine, it's gonna help your toe.
As long as you
And-
don't just stub it, you know, like,
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
but, you know, so, I just feel like it's all connected and I've learned that it controls so many things. It's amazing. And I want to have good posture, because, you know, when I'm going to be 70 next year and you don't want to get that.
Yeah.
Every time I'm shopping or I'm out somewhere and I see somebody, immediately I remember, okay, yeah.
yeah, watch that pod. And we talk about it all the time, so we're glad that people are
Yeah, picking
listening
up
to
to
that.
that.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that we really like to pursue and talk about is getting people educated. And not that people aren't educated, but educated about chiropractic,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like when you were first talking, like, you know, you've heard stories and like when you first came in, it's like, I don't know what these guys are gonna be like. Believe it or not, we still get that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 2024.
I believe it because.
So we're trying to we're trying to get rid of that stigma and that fear of like, I don't know what's gonna go on when I go in there, or like I don't know what they do. Like we have you can pretty much find everything on the internet, and if you go to Logan University, it tells you exactly what we do. You know, we've all specialized since graduating from Logan, but there's just such a call to be like, let people know exactly what we do, and let people, like, there's no reason to be having any stigma or be afraid of anything, or like, you know, the amount of schooling that we participate in, it's grueling. It is intense. For us as chiropractors, we in that first 4 months, what do they say? Like 10% of the class that starts does not make it through the first 4 months. Does not make it.
Oh, I think a lot of people don't know the schooling that you have to do.
Yeah. So we, along with educating people, patients about what we do on a daily basis, how we prepare ourselves for the day, like. People still like, well, how do you know who I am?
Yeah,
It's like,
I
how
don't
do you
know
know?
we're here like an hour before we ever see patients, so that's because we're spending that whole time preparing. we go through every single patient, we're gonna see that shift that morning, talking about their last visit, what we plan to do in the future, so that's a part of what it seems like, we're just like doing things maybe on the fly, but,
A lot of preparation.
a lot of preparation, yeah, goes into that.
Because we really feel that patients are worth our time. They're worth our time.
That is a big, like you mentioned, the big thing is when patients do have questions, making sure we spend the time to fully answer those, because a lot of patients are used to that.
Yeah.
But we try to make sure that we can fully answer those before we move on.
Yeah, and,
Or we'll find the answer somewhere.
and if we don't know the answer right then, we're not gonna make something up.
Yeah.
We're gonna say, I don't know exactly what the answer is, but I'm gonna do some research and I'll get back to you.
You've done that because I had
Yes, we,
osteopenia and
yeah.
you did a lot of research for me on that.
Yeah, we, you know, somehow it always works out that I'm seeking knowledge that's out there that's current, and a patient comes in like yourself and is like, hey, what do you know about this? And somehow it pops up, it's like, hey, we're doing a seminar on this, you know, come and hang out. And there was a women's seminar from the
Yes.
women's symposium last year that we solidified all of our information with the treatment of making sure patients know what to do if they feel like they're having more bone loss, you know, if they're diagnosed with osteopenia, what the appropriate testing solution for bone loss is, which we all know is DEXA, right?
Mhm.
And so all that information kind of like came together, and we talked at length about it. So, but yeah, it's we want people to be well informed not only about what we do, but how best to help themselves. What do you think is the biggest thing that you've learned since starting care here, and you're still doing it to this day?
Practicing good posture, stretching, you know, remembering before, because I love to go out and power walk.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, just remember to do everything before, keep yourself going.
Warm up.
The biggest thing is, I've just asked you guys, and I tell everybody, it's kind of like the oil can with the tin man. Just
Yeah.
keep me going so that I can do the things I love to do. So
Yeah.
that's basically it, just remembering. I remember everything you tell me.
I mean, that's pretty
Some
true.
good, some bad.
Yeah.
And you know what, you learn a lot too, just because it's an open deal out there.
Yeah.
Right?
And I'm always listening. You play nice music, but I'm always listening.
Right?
And you're like, oh yeah, she's got that. Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's a great thing about it. You can pick up on other things, or sometimes people see us working on other, you know, some people don't realize we work on extremities, you know, like shoulders, knees, and all of a sudden the patient will see us working on something like, oh, you know what, my shoulder bothers me. So it kind of helps in that way. Plus, we've had a lot of patients almost become friends because they've met each other here in the office.
Yes.
You know, we've had some patients up being a babysitter for another patient just because they met here in the,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
True.
kind of our waiting area. We don't really call it a waiting area, but out here in the open.
Yeah. Do you have anything that you want to ask, Pat?
I think we've covered most of it. Of course, we always have one of our last questions that we're required to ask that I'll ask you. And it kind of puts you on the spot, but
Okay.
who is your favorite doctor and why is it Dr. Josh?
Yeah, I knew you would have to say that. No, I love Dr. Josh. She's funny. If I ever am in the slightest way down a little bit, just seeing his smiley face when I come in,
It's high energy. He's high
he's
energy.
high energy, fun to watch. No, I've spent most of my time, all you guys are great. You have helped me
Yeah, for a while
with
there. when you-
vertigo.
Yeah,
And-
vertigo, yeah.
That was crazy. I was in
Yeah.
my car, and I called, and you saw me, and, you know,
That was one of the things
just
that popped up
relieving
for
the
you.
fear.
Yes.
Like, what the heck is this?
Vertigo especially, because it kind of comes on what seems like out of nowhere,
Right.
and it affects everything, driving and all that, so. Yeah, that was, what was that, about 2 years ago or so,
I
maybe?
think so. Time
Around
just
there.
flies, but
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. that was a couple weeks of off and on, I think, of
Mhm.
dealing with the vertigo.
Mhm.
But yeah, I know Dr. Matt's been the one who's
Yes,
Provided
everybody knows.
99% of your kids probably.
But isn't
The
that
best.
the greatest thing? Like, about what we do here, it's like, I might be the primary doctor for Pat, but, you know, there are times where you will have to step in because you are much better with the Apley maneuver and treatment of vertigo, along with, you know, Dr. Josh and his explanation of everything chemical that occurs in your body.
Mhm.
How many times have you had consults with him about things that you're going through or questions that you had? And it's like, oh wow, this is all the information I could possibly want and more. And he's still talking about it and I'm trying to leave the room.
He'll pull me up to the
Yeah.
screen
Yeah.
and, you know, show me the visual, so it's great.
That is what's nice about having the screens right out there, because, you know, we can just walk right over there and not try to have to just explain it. We can actually,
Yeah.
for our visual learners, it helps out a lot to be able to
Yes.
see exactly what muscle we're talking about or what chemical process we're talking about.
Okay, now you did it. You graduated. You're it.
Success, thank you.
Success. Yeah, that was absolutely wonderful. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to our podcast. We didn't really introduce it at the beginning, but there's something that plays. But it's called the Spine Whisperer podcast, and I know Pat is a big proponent of it. And she loves it, and we're getting back on track with that. And this will be the first of many this year. And then
I think
we'll
we're at
continue.
101 episodes.
Yeah, this is the
I believe. We hit that
101st
100
episode.
We took a little bit of a break
We stalled.
to rest.
We
and
stalled.
then I think this is 101.
Yep. Okay, so for myself, Dr. Brad, Pat, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
But